Despite the chaos and uncertainty and ever-changing circumstances that are always around us but are especially present now, you have to find ways to stay grounded and confident in your sense of self and in your direction in life. Confidence is something we're all growing and developing throughout life. I'm not saying that I have it all figured out all the time, but I have figured out these two fundamentals that I think are key to gaining and developing your confidence and your sense of self. And I'm not talking about confidence that comes from having a big ego-rooted sense of self. That ego-based sense of self is fueled by recognition to others, feeling superior to others. It's the person who wins an award and then brags about it on their Instagram for weeks on end. It's the boss who dictates assignments without getting others' input because it enforces their authority. It's the person in the conversation who talks incessantly about themselves without asking you a single question. Sure, those people probably think very highly of themselves, but that's not who I'm trying to be, because that sense of self based on status or dominance or superiority to others is actually quite fragile. Hey, it's your girl Asante, helping you move consciously and creatively through life, so let's go. There are two parts that I've seen to self-confidence. One is foundational and one is a bit more profound. At the foundation, there's agency. Agency is not only the ability to make changes in your own life and circumstances, it's the mindset of acknowledging and really feeling like you are in the driver's seat of your own life. Now, for some people, their road through life is paved and smooth, they have a good amount of privilege, and it's relatively straightforward for them to make change in their own life. While for others, there are more obstacles, potholes, and ways that society works against them because of their different identities or abilities. And that's why we do need to address issues of social injustice, because everyone should be empowered and have access to the resources they need to make changes in their own lives. But in either case, you are the driver of your life. And you are capable of great things. Realizing that capacity, testing your abilities, and proving yourself right, and having that supporting evidence is part of what helps your confidence to build over time. I think this is part of why independence feels so important for me, and part of why I'm kind of fine riding solo a lot of the time. For me, going away to college, being single, living on my own and on my own means, forging my own connections and relationships and career, those have all been ways for me to prove who I am to myself and that I'm capable myself without being defined by or dependent on other people. For me, I don't even want to be dependent on a single institution for my work and livelihood right now. Now, I like being interdependent. No one accomplishes great things entirely alone, but I had to become confident as an independent person first. I was someone who got really nervous going to a new school growing up, joining a new club, entering a new social situation. Who am I going to talk to? What if nobody likes me? You just have to go on out there and do it. In those new, challenging, scary situations, feel the fear and do it anyway. I started to recognize that kind of fear as nerves, as me caring about the outcome, which means that there are stakes, which means this is something worth doing. This can be something that can push you, that can be new territory for growth, and we're all about personal growth on this channel. And that way you can teach yourself your own agency and that you can handle it. You'll be fine. Someone is going to talk to you, and if you don't really click with anyone, well, then maybe this is not the club for you. That's totally fine, and you can move on. And the experience gives you tools to handle it even better the next time. So that first thing was the baseline. I think that's really hard to do when you're young and in school and have other people, parents, teachers, basically telling you what to do all the time. So I didn't start feeling like my own person, making my own decisions with my own agency until after school. So that one sort of just takes growing up. But even when I got to a baseline level of confidence, I was maneuvering in the adult world, getting things done, I still didn't feel good enough. My accomplishments didn't ever feel sufficient to me. I made a video about how I felt mentally at my worst at a moment where I was being recognized for my accomplishments. And I knew it wasn't rational, but I couldn't see what was missing until I came across the second idea of anchoring your life on the right center. Consider this scenario. You were invited to your friend's birthday party. Not your best friend, but a good friend, someone who you enjoy hanging out with. But the catch is, you usually only hang out with this friend one-on-one. You're not really a part of each other's larger friend group. So if you go to the party, you probably won't know anyone else there. And there's another catch. When you RSVP'd yes to this party a week ago, you thought you'd be free that Saturday. But today, it's Friday, the day before the party, and you're not finished with your big work project, the project you have to give a big presentation about Monday morning. It really feels like you could spend the whole rest of the weekend finishing it up. So, you going to the party tomorrow? How you answer this question will hinge largely on where you center and anchor your life. The center of your life is the thing that you prioritize. It's where you feel the most fulfilled. It's what makes you feel the most satisfied and valuable. It's what you think of as the most important thing to focus on. If you center your life on your friends, then you'll probably choose the birthday party. Not only will you make your friend happy by showing up, but you could make even more friends while there, which increases your feeling of value from being connected to that social web. If you center your life on your spouse, your decision might hinge on whether your spouse was going to attend the party with you, and whether they'd be disappointed by canceling the social engagement. If you center your life on work and career, you'll choose to use the weekend to make sure your project is up to snuff, because you prioritize being seen as an expert in your area, and doing well on Monday's presentation could boost your reputation and open you up to more work opportunities in the future. If you center your life on money, you'll focus on the financial opportunities that could be gained by acing the presentation, maybe getting referrals to other clients or advancing yourself for a promotion. You'll trust that your friend will understand that economic concerns come first. We pick up these different centers as we go through life and are taught by the people around us what's valuable. School often has us focusing on friend groups and clubs, cliques, in-groups, out-groups, so it's easy to value friends as a life center and place ultimate importance on the social company you keep, especially since who you know is touted as so important to where you can get in life. Capitalism and our work-centered culture in the US makes it easy to center money and your career. Money is held up as the ultimate marker of success, career advancement is awarded and praised, and our jobs dictate a lot about our schedules, our activities, our social circles, and our healthcare. These social pressures teach us to value these ultimately unsatisfying centers: money, career, possessions, other people, and you have to work to actively re-center your life in a healthier place. Principles. I came across this idea when I read this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a great book overall, but I found it to be life-changing because of the section of the book on centering your life on principles. Covey's theory, which rings true for me, is that whatever you put at the center of your life will be the source of your security, which is your sense of self-worth and identity, your guidance, which is your sense of direction in life, your wisdom, which is your judgment, and your power, which is your capacity to act, your agency. He gives a list of things people often center their lives on: spouse, family, friends or enemies, church, work, money, possessions, social status, pleasure, and argues that if your life is centered on the pursuit of one of these things or on the pleasure derived from these things, then your life becomes dependent on sources outside of your control. It makes your sense of self, your identity, your happiness, your sense of value incredibly fragile. If the work-centered person gets passed up for a promotion, it feels like a personal failure. If you feel lost in your career, it feels like you're lost in life. If the spouse-centered person has a disagreement with their partner, they feel a heightened sense of conflict or go through a deep withdrawal. A divorce could feel like a personal moral failure. The status-centered person has a hard time working with others as equals, or starts feeling depressed when others around them excel. Centering your life and your identity and your sense of value on these things, that ego-driven identity, leads to emotional instability because those outside elements can change with the whims of other people, with human nature, and with circumstances outside of your control. Them things is outside of your control, honey. Covey suggests that instead we should center our lives on principles, timeless, unchanging truths that center us in a balanced, harmonious, grounded life. Things like living with integrity and honesty, listening deeply to others, maintaining a sense of humor and positive outlook. Through experience and introspection, you figure out the paradigm through which you see the world and search out the right principles that feel right for you to live by. And your understanding of the principles can change over time, but the principles themselves do not. They won't move to another city or decide to terminate your position. You determine how you want to live your life, and you derive pleasure and satisfaction from the process, even though the what of your life's activities will ebb and flow. Before I read The 7 Habits, I was naturally very work and career focused, which left me feeling ultimately unfulfilled and unworthy. But I've since recentered and now have jumped off of the corporate ladder climbing game altogether, becoming an independent creative, and I do feel much more free and satisfied. There was a time during college where I actually became very enemy-centered. There was this group of women who took advantage of my creative work, went back on their word, and were overall very disrespectful towards me, including one of the women cussing me out to the point where an administrator got involved to stop her from verbally attacking me. I spent a lot of time and energy feeling hurt, thinking about what the group was going to do next, and wondering what I could have done wrong to upset these people. What should I have done differently? In hindsight, Not a damn thing. In that moment, I was living within my values. I was acting with integrity, I was acting in an honest, open, communicative way, and the other parties were not. Just because someone rejects you or swears at you or disrespects you doesn't mean you need to feel badly about yourself, especially if you're acting within your values and you're centered on principles rather than on gaining the acceptance of others. And you don't have to fixate on the other person being a bad person either. If they don't live by your same values, then you're not a good fit. You can go your separate ways. And you learn for the next time. A few years later, when I had someone who was supposed to be a creative collaborator start cussing me out and verbally attacking me, I knew it said more about them than it did about me. Centering my life on principles rather than on status games has helped me in gaining confidence, because if I am having friction in a situation, as long as I'm acting within my integrity, I don't need to think badly about myself or like I'm necessarily at fault for the negative outcome. And I don't need to moralize either side and think of people as good or bad. I can just say, you know what? I'm not aligned with this. We do not share the same values. It's not a good fit. And it's better to surround myself with people who share my values. So if someone shows themselves to be disrespectful, dishonest, disagreeable, that's a comment on them, not me. And I can be grateful that they've revealed that about themselves, because now I know we need to part ways. Thank you and good night. If I'm living by my values and principles, then I can make my decisions based on those things and feel confident about how I'm choosing to walk through the world. And based on my principles now, I'm finding a way to make it to that birthday party. So that's how I feel like gaining confidence is largely a matter of recognizing and owning the agency you have over your own life, proving your abilities to yourself, and going through life centered on your principles. Over on Patreon, I'm going to share what I've written up as my personal manifesto, my principles and values that I center my life on, so I'll link that in the description if you're curious. As always, remember to live spiritedly and think creatively, and I will see you next time.